Hello, welcome to RC Video Reviews. Today we're going to cover EdgeTX 2.10 release candidate. I am on release candidate 1, although they have recently released release candidate 2. I haven't flashed to that one yet, so I'm not going to get into release candidate 2. There are some minor differences, but yeah, I think what I'll probably do is a final video when the final mainline is out, the 2.10 release version is out. I'll cover that and maybe adjust for any little deltas between where we are now and release candidate 1 and release candidate whatever. But anyway, release candidate 2 is out now. We're going to do release candidate 1. And for this video, I thought what I would do today, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll take both a 2.9 or I should say prior version, and I'll put them side by side on the desk and I'll go through the menus and show every single thing. And I've already done that a couple of times on 2.10. So what I thought I would do on this video is just go through the major change log and show you those features in a little bit of detail. So that's what we're going to do today on the EdgeTX 2.10 release candidate 1. And it's exciting stuff. A couple of housekeeping items before we get started. The first thing I have to do is thank the EdgeTX team, because these guys are an amazing group of volunteers, very welcoming and warm, allowing all of us to contribute our ideas and our thoughts. And they take the best ideas and incorporate them, and they help us understand sometimes when our ideas aren't all that great. But it's a diplomatic job, and they do a fantastic job at handling the community and interacting with the community. So I'm just really grateful that we have these guys out there doing the things that they do to make EdgeTX available for us. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing, I hope you guys forgive me for paying the bills, but you know how it is, man. YouTube economy, we got to pay the bills. So we're going to get into EdgeTX 2.10 in just a moment. But first, for you electronics gurus and tinkerers out there, check out PCBWay.com. PCBWay has a full suite of services available to make your ideas a reality, including PCB manufacturing and assembly, CNC machining, 3D printing, and injection molding. When you're ready to order, PCBWay provides instant quotes, real-time production tracking, and you can order as few as 5 boards at a time, which is great for early-stage projects. If you need an experienced partner to help bring your ideas to life, check out PCBWay.com. I have a link in the description if you'd like to give them a look. Okay, there we go. That is out of the way. Now we can get down to business. So, okay. I've got 2.10 and I'm just going to show you. I'll hit my system button and go to information here. And what I'm going to do first, we're going to go through the website and I'm going to show you the list of things on the website. And then I'm going to switch over to the big camera so you guys can see, and I'll just go down the web browser. So the link for this is in the description if you'd like to follow along on your own browser. Grab that URL and just pop that up, and you'll be able to track and go along with me. But I don't want to keep switching back and forth during the live stream. But anyway, as you can see, I've got 2.10 RC1, and just for the record, I have been flying with this. I flew the AJ yesterday with this. I flew my 78-inch NG. So I have been flying with 2.10, and I don't see, in terms of stability issues, I haven't had any problems. It's been fine. No issues for me. So, okay, summary of changes. We're just going to scroll through these. I'm going to set the camera aside for just a moment, and we'll take a look at the summary of changes. Again, link in the description if you want to follow along. I'll also call out, they've done a great job with the manual. So this is a kind of a newer development, not brand new. They've been working on this for a while, but again, link for the manual is in the description as well. But you can see they've got a manual here. They've got the logos up top, how-tos, some additional resources. And then I'm looking at this one right here, summary of changes since 2.9. So that's where I'm looking. And we'll just scroll down this list. So for color, and by the way, I'll apologize up front to the black and white radio community, but this is going to be focused on the color radio because that's where a lot of the feature enhancements were. If there's enough interest in the black and white features updates, let me know in the comments, and I'll look at doing a video for the black and white radios. Okay, so new hardware support. They added officially the FlySky PL18 and the PL18 EV, which is kind of exciting. That is the flagship radio from FlySky. So very interesting that they've got that going. And the general changes, the mixer now runs at 1,000 hertz. I can't really demonstrate that to you, but I will show you the statistics and debug screen. I'll cover that, and I'll show you what they mean by that. I think the idea was that by running the mixer at a higher rate in a flight simulator, it just helps with compute resources and making sure that the flight simulators are highly responsive when using the radio and joystick mode, which I do, by the way. I do actually use my radio and joystick mode. There are minor UI improvements on many pages for better look and consistency. I've talked about this on a couple of pilot jams where some of the controls and boxes and dialogues have been resized and adjusted. And, you know, it's one of those deals where I think they're going to continue to fine tune. So we'll see them continue to work on making the controls just right and the layout just right. And if you have feedback, get on the GitHub, link in the description, and go to the issues page and let them know. Just say, hey, this is too big, too small. You know, I'd like to see this, and they'll take your comments into consideration. So minor UI improvements throughout, and I have noticed that there have been definite changes to button sizes and that type of thing. The bootloader background has been removed to make the text more legible. We'll cover that. The default splash screen has been updated with the new EdgeTX logo. I usually run a custom splash screen, but I'll show you that as well. The source selection menu has been optimized for easier touch usability and sorting. That was a well needed upgrade, and it's a lot more consistent now too. So we'll get into that, and I'll show you what that means. So when we're doing inputs and mixes, the source buttons have been categorized, and there's filters. You can set them and clear them. It's really nice, really nice. And the source selection menu will now also display global variable number and name. We'll cover that. There's an LED animation for PL18. We will not be covering that because I don't have that radio handy for demonstration. We're just going to focus on the one I have on the desk for now. The user interface, there have been some changes to the system and model buttons. I got to tell you, out of all the things they did, this was the one that I'm having the hardest time with because they changed. You have like the short press, the long press, and I'm just going to click on this link right here. It's functionalities. And you can see that for the radio setup screen, you short press model to navigate to the model setup. You long press model to navigate to the manage model screen. That's actually, it seems to make sense. And you know, if my memory's not failing me, I kind of think that that might have been the way it was on OpenTX, but it's been a hot minute since I've used OpenTX, so I've forgotten. In the model setup screen, you can press the system button and navigate to the radio setup or tools screen. And you can long press system. So I'm not going to read every one of these, but you get the idea. Go through this page and read these and then tinker with the radio, and you'll figure it out. It's not devastating, you know, but it is different. It is slightly different. It does behave different. And a lot of times what I find myself doing is pressing or long pressing, waiting for something to happen and going, oh wait, they changed that. So if you're new to Edge, this probably won't be as much of a problem for you, but for me, I have to unlearn some stuff, but that's okay. Progress. So anyway, check out the functionalities in detail when you get a chance on your radio. If you have an NV14 or EL18, you can now use trim hat switches to navigate the menus. That's a nice little upgrade. They added a hardware shortcut keys to the virtual text and number keyboards. So now when you're in the keyboard, you can actually use buttons on the radio to navigate around. I'll try and show you a couple of those. I haven't really, for me, I just use the keyboard, so I don't really worry about the hardware buttons, but I'll try and see if I can show you a couple of those. Let's see. Under Manage Models, there are new layouts for the model list. That's a really cool feature. I think a lot of you guys are going to like that. Well, we'll get into detail on that one. Updated the model image frame size and shape. Now displays the model name on top of the image instead of clipping the image. They mentioned that. I'm going to have to do a little homework there. I didn't check, and I'm probably not going to go mess around with my I'm not sure if this is a reference to image resolution. It says the model image frames size and shape. I don't know. I'll have to dig into that a little bit. We'll save that for another video, but it sounds like they may have rearranged. Normally the model image's size is, I think it's 192 by 120. It's something like that. That's the resolution for a typical model image. Maybe that's what they're referring to as they changed those dimensions. Replace the new label button with the new model button with now just a new button with options for model or label. That makes sense. They're just cleaning things up. So now you just press the new button. You can choose model or label. That's cool. We'll show you that. Replace the confusing model sorting icon. That was a nice one. The original, when they originally added labels, they had a sorting icon down at the bottom. Unless you memorized what they were, the icons themselves were not highly descriptive. So now they've got a text list that when you drop it down, you'll be able to see it. So that's a nice little update. And then a few others around the labels and the model setups. And then in the model setup itself, they've done some work on the timers, the flight modes. They've added an option to set unused trim switches for 3-position momentaries, which is kind of cool. I'll show you how that works. In the mixer, the interactive checklist. I didn't want to skip over that. I will show you the interactive checklist too. That is a very cool option. I really wish this were available when I was doing the long distance stuff out in the desert on the more complex airplanes. But that is a really cool feature. I can't wait to show you that one. That's really, really neat. And good job on that one, Edge team. Very cool. Global variables, there is a pop-up option. So when there's an adjustment to a global variable, you'll see a pop-up screen, which is kind of cool. And then some more changes to special functions, telemetry, and some SD card goodies. So that's the list. I'll let you guys read the rest of it. It gets kind of detailed if I read every line. So we'll skip over that and let's get into the radio, right? And I'll start showing you some of the cool stuff on this setup. All right, remember, I'm not going to toggle back and forth. So if you want, grab the URL from the description and follow along in your browser if you want to see what I'm up to. Again, we'll go back up to the mixer. I can't demonstrate the 1000 hertz in joystick mode, but what I can show you is that they display the mixer runtime in the statistics and debug screen. And the way you get to that is press the Edge logo and then just hit statistics. And then if you push this little icon right there, that's the debug screen. And there is, I believe that's the value they're talking about, the T-Mix Max. So that's the timer I think they're talking about in the debug screen. So that's that. Let's see, the bootloader background has been removed to make text more legible. Let's take a look at that. So to get into the bootloader, and look at that, that's a preview of what's to come. I'll show you how to do that too. So to get in the bootloader, we turn the radio off, and then we press T4 and T1. Are we not focusing, camera? Come on, work with me. Okay, there we go. We pressed, it's going out of focus again. We press T4 and T1 in, and then we press the power button, and that will get us into the bootloader. And when we get into the bootloader, if you can see, they used to have this little meshed background here, and that's gone now. It's just a black screen, and that's the main change. So you can see I've got the EdgeTX bootloader 2.10.0 RC1. I will show you how to flash the bootloader on this video so you can see, okay? But there we go. That's the bootloader. And then to avoid having to do another full, well, I guess we're going to do a full reboot anyway. But I'll show you something else they did too with the default splash screen. Normally, if you put a splash.png with your screen resolution in your images folder, it will display that during boot. If you don't use a splash.png, now they've done a version with a little Eddie the Hedgehog and your release version or your firmware version right here on the bottom right. You'll see that in just a minute. I wanted to explain it to you before I restarted so you'll see it happen. So I'm going to hit exit and you'll see the little new boot screen come up. There it is. And there's the version number right there. So there you go. That's the new splash screen for EdgeTX. Kind of cool, huh? That's 2.10. So neat. And then I'll cover this. I'll cover how to do this in just a minute, but you can also set a shutdown screen. So see how I have EdgeTX FTW? That's the new shutdown screen that I made for this video. And that image, by the way, is in my Discord. So if you like a copy of that, go into the EdgeTX channel on my Discord, and it is pinned. You can download that and put it on your radio. It's called shutdown.png. And again, you make it the same resolution as your screen, and it will display that image during shutdown. Pretty cool, right? So you can put in whatever you want. A little bit of customization. It's kind of nice. Let's go fly something. And I'll show you, I'll give you a quick look at that in just a second. We'll go in the file browser and I'll show it to you. So we'll click System, and we'll click on the file browser, and we go under Images, and it's called shutdown.png. That's the name of that one. There it is, shutdown.png. And you can see when I click on it, it shows EdgeTX FTW for the win and the little Eddie the Hedgehog logo. Cool, right? So there's your shutdown logo. Okay. So let's see, bootloader background, we covered that. Default splash screen, we covered that now. New EdgeTX logo and EdgeTX version, we got that done. The source selection menu has been optimized. Okay, let's cover that one because that was a really nice functional update. And I'm gonna zoom in a little bit more so you guys can get a better look at the screen. And the source selection menu, and this has been changed pretty much throughout. So I'm going to press the model button, just a quick press. That brings us into the model settings. And then you can either press the page right or you can click right up here. I'll just click on the screen. That's the input screen. And I'll click on this one and hit edit. And the source selector, that's this field right here that says source. And you see how I've got the aileron stick? Well, when I click on that, now notice what happens. They've got this list over here on the left-hand side right here, and you can click all. These are sticks, pots. These are special configurations, so that's going to be min, max, and it looks like timers. That's what I'm seeing there, bat time, GPS, flight time. So it's not just timers because they got GPS there as well, which is kind of interesting. This one is your trim switches, so rudder, elevator, throttle, aileron, T5, T6. These are your regular switches. That's these guys. And then you've got logical switches. So if you have any logical switches defined, like L1, L2, you can press LS and just get your logical switches. Telemetry values, pots. What was this? I said those are pots. These are sliders. Oh no, global variables. That's what it is. And oh, they mentioned this earlier in the list that when you're in the source selector, the global variable number right there, GV1, and name now appear in the selector, which is really nice. That's a nice feature. That is covered a little bit later in the list, but I wanted to show you in the input selector, that was the reference to global variable number and name being displayed in the source selector. And then finally, you've got telemetry. So all your telemetry values. And if you want to see the entire list, you can click all. And that brings you back to the entire list and you can scroll through it if you want. This is such a nice feature because this list is kind of long. And if you know, hey, I'm looking for a trim switch or I just want a logical switch, you can click that and now you just have your logical switches. Very nice. Very nice feature. That's a nice feature update. And take it from me, guys. I spent a lot of time configuring these radios. That's a nice feature. That's a good one. I'm really happy with that. So that is the source selection menu has been optimized for easier touch usability and sorting. That's what they mean by that. The source selection menu will now display both global variable number and name. Just covered that. And then they added a charging LED for the PL18. We're not going to cover that because I don't have the PL18 in front of me. All right, the system and model buttons have different functionality. So we'll cover a couple of these. I'm not going to cover every single one of them, but in the radio setup screen, so we're going to go into the radio setup screen. Let's see, this should be system. That's the radio setup screen. And it says, if you're in the radio setup screen, short press model navigates to the model setup screen. So we're just going to short press model. And now we're in the model setup screen. How about that? It's almost like they documented it. Nice job. And now we'll go back and we have to go into the radio setup screen again. So we're in the radio setup screen and it says we can long press the model to navigate to manage models. Now, you guys might be saying, wait a minute, what's the big deal here? Well, the big deal here is before, if you were in this radio setup screen, if you were here and you wanted to go into your models, you had to back out first. You had to hit return and go back here, and then you could navigate to your models or your model selector. That's the deal. That's the deal. That's what's changed. And then I'll show you one other quick one. I'm not going to go through this, like 15 of these things. So in the model setup screen, if we press the model button, short press the model button, that brings us to our model setup screen right here, model setup screen. And it says in the model setup screen, if you short press the system button, that navigates to the radio setup tools screen. So we'll short press system and there is, how about that? Radio setup tools screen. There it is. If we long press, so we're going to go back into model settings, we'll long press the system button and that navigates to the radio setup screen. Long press, and there we go. Look at that, radio setup screen. See how instead of landing here on tools, it went over to the radio setup. So all they're doing is they're making these buttons a little more extensible. So you have to learn a little bit, you have to learn your navigation changes a little. So you're gonna have to learn that. And the best way to do it is to fool around with it. It won't be too long. It'll become memory after a little while. So that's the idea behind the buttons, and that's what I mean about, I'm not going to go through the whole list. There's like 8 more of these things or something. It's a good list. So go through, check that list and work on the different function buttons and what happens when you're in different screens and you long press or short press, and see if you can work it out. Let's see. The next one was trim hat switches and the MV14 and EL18. Not going to cover that because I don't have those radios in front of me. Added a hardware shortcut key to the virtual text and number keyboards. Okay, hardware shortcut keys. So let's go into, we'll go into the model settings and we'll go into this field right here for the model. And what we'll do is I'm going to just press the right page button and I'll press the left page button. Okay, so see what happens when I press the page left, the cursor is moving. And if I press page right, it moves to the right. And then if I move the scroll wheel, see how it's moving the highlight on the screen right there? That's just moving the scroll wheel. And I think if we press it, yeah, we press on the jog dial and that enters a U. So that's what they mean about incorporating the hardware keys with the virtual keyboard. That's the idea. All right, so fool around with that if you want to use the hardware keys. Personally, I don't. But, I could see on a cold day, or if you're wearing gloves, I could see the value in that. Definitely, it makes sense. And why not? Why not? If they can do it, if the capability's there, why not? So it's the cool thing is you get to choose what works for you, right? That's what's good about it. Okay, on the Manage Models page. So we'll get there by long pressing the model button. We're going to long press. Now we're under Manage Models. There's a whole bunch of different things going on here. And I'll draw your attention to this little icon right here. This is the layout icon. Now you can see there's 4 little squares there, 4 little blue squares, and I see 4 little squares right here on my screen, right? That's the reference. So if you press this button right there, it changes. So now there's 9 of them, and I see 9 on my screen, right? And if I press it again, so this is what they mean by model layouts. Now you can see that we got rid of our images altogether and we're straight text, which I have a feeling will behave quicker because you're not rendering images. It makes sense. And then we can press it one more time. And now instead of having the side-by-sides, we have just 1 line each for each model. And I think if we press it again, that brings us back up to the top, which will be did I not click it? That should bring us back up to the 4x4 model or the 2x2 model. All right, so that's your new layouts, the additional layouts for the model list. Now it says updated the model image frame size. I talked about that. I'm not sure what the size is. Well, I'll dig into it and find out. I'll see what I can learn about it. And I'm sure one of the EdgeTX developers could leave a comment in the video for us afterwards to let us know what that reference is for the image frames and sizes. Okay, next up, replace the new label button and new model button with just a new button. This is what they're talking about right here. So that is a new button. And it has options for new model or new label. So if I click that, see how we have new model or new label? There you go. So you can either create a new model or you can add a label over here on the side. So just tidying things up, making it a little more organized. Very nicely done. Very nicely done. And then let's see, replace the confusing model sorting icons. This is what they're talking about right here. Down here on the bottom left, see how that says most used? Before there were 3 little icons along the bottom, and you had to pick them, and you eventually you figured it out, right? Eventually you learned. You're like, okay, you just learn. But they've replaced those icons now with text, which makes it a lot easier to understand as far as I'm concerned. So you can sort name A to Z, name Z to A, least used, most used, and that's it. So very nice, very, very cool. I thought they used to have one I thought was called date created or something like that. Anyway, I'll leave mine on most used. It works. So let's see. Replace confusing model sorting icons. That's one I just covered. Added a single select option for model labels plus label and or filtering logic configurable in the radio setup. I'll show you that in just a little bit. And in fact, we'll get to that in just a moment. Added a single select option for model labels. I'm not sure exactly what that means because as far as I know, I've always been able to do a single select. Let's see if I can press on this one. We'll hit label model, put it on today. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what that one's a reference to. That seems like nothing's changed to me. I'm not sure about that one, but I will show you the and or filtering logic in the radio setup screen. So I think if I long press this, we go to radio setup screen, right? Yeah, there we go. And let's see here. Where are you hiding? Is it enabled features, radio setup screen, manage models? There it is. Label matching and or. So there it is. Match any. So that would be the or, and this would be the and. So if you put it on match all, that means it would have to match all of the labels you selected in order to be shown. And if you select match any, that would be or, any of them. So if you have, so in my case, I use that today label. It could be today or a jet or a 3D plane. If any of those labels match, then it would be displayed. So match any, match all. That's what they're talking about on that one. Okay. Let's see, under model setup, timers that are enabled will show as highlighted on the model setup screen. Okay, let's check that out. So we'll get back out of there and we'll short press model, and timers that are enabled will show up as highlighted on the model setup screen. So that's what they're talking about. I have 2 timers, it's obvious. And you know, I like that a lot because before it was just a white screen. You didn't know. You'd have to go in and click and say, did I configure that or not? Now it's obvious to me when just by bringing up the screen, I can see immediately that I have timer 1 and timer 2 configured. So that's very cool. I'll click on timer 1. Yep, you can see I've got flight right there. And I'll click on timer 2. Whoop, I got total time right there. So yep, I absolutely configured it. Now we'll click on timer 3 and there's nothing there. So that's nice. That's a nice little feature because now I have a very instantaneous view as to what's going on with my configuration. I like that. Nice upgrade. Min can be used as a source. When selected, it always returns 100. So what they're saying is in the model setup, min can be selected as a source, huh? Let's see. Let's try picking one of these. We'll click edit, and for source, we're going to select, is it this one? It's that one. See the min? I've asked for that, so I'm glad to see that in there now. Min, because we had max before. Why not have min, right? So that's a good one. I did ask for that. In fact, that came up on the Discord. One of the guys came in and said, hey, how come I can't do a min value for, and I said, I don't know. That's actually a really good question because we've had max forever. So if you use min as a source, it returns a value of -100. So there you go. Min as a source. It's true. You saw it here first. All right, let's see. What else do we have here? Added interactive. Oh, this was one of my favorite little upgrades. Now, I'm going to switch models on this one. We'll come back to this model in just a little bit, so don't worry about that. But I'm going to switch models because I'm going to show you the checklist being loaded. So, and I will also show you how to do it. Okay, I'll show you how to set this up. So we're going to long press the model button. That brings us to the model selector. And notice I've got my FMS cub here. So I'm going to click that and click. Click. Throttle's not idle. There it is. Check it out, man. Set the gyro to off. It's a little interactive checklist. So again, this would have been so nice when I was flying that complex long range stuff in the desert to have a checklist like, because I used to have a very long checklist for those. But look at that. Set the gyro to off. Oh, okay. I'll put my SE switch down. Done. Or disarm the plane, right? Set the flaps to takeoff. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Let's put the flaps on takeoff right there. And then put a little check mark in there. And then face into the wind. Yeah, that's a good idea before taking off. So we'll put a little check mark in there. And then when you're done, you hit the little return button and you're brought into your model. Isn't that cool? That is a nice update. Now, what I will say, if you want to make this work, the way you do it is you in your models directory. In fact, rather than explain it, let me just show you. We'll click on system. And we'll go into the file browser and we're going to go under models. And you can see right here, I have this file called fmscub.txt. And notice how that exactly matches the name of the model. So my model name is fms space cub. My file name then is fms space cub. And in that file, all I have are lines that say, you know, turn into the wind, put the flaps down, turn the gyro off. And if you want the little check mark, all you have to do is put an equal sign in front of the line. So you just put a little equal sign in front of the line, and that's all you have to do. Let me see if I have that. In fact, I'll tell you what, it's only going to take me a second. I'm just going to make it in the notepad here, face into the wind. equals flaps down. There we go. So now let me just show you the desktop and you'll see what I'm talking about. Here's the workspace and here's what I'm talking about. Can we zoom in on this a little bit? Zoom, Control plus, huh? All right. Control plus, 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 plus. There you go. There's your checklist. That's all you have to do. And then I'll show you one other little setting, but you put equals face into the wind and equals flaps down. And when you do that and you put it into a file name that exactly matches your model, then you'll get that interactive checklist with one other setting in the radio that you have to make. And that setting, if we go into, where are you hiding? Let's click on the model setting and we'll do pre-start checks and you'll see it right here. Display checklist, see that? Display checklist and then interactive checklist. When you turn that on, that's what'll do it. So you put the file in your models folder, name it the same exact thing as your model, put an equal sign in front of each line, turn on interactive checklist, and there you go. And when you do that, you can do a reset the session, you get your little interactive checklist. And if you want to bypass it, I bet you can hit return. Nope, look at that. They locked that out. How about that? Oh, you have to go through the checklist. Good, good, good. I like it. That's what you should do. If you have a checklist, if you took the time to do this, then you should go through it. So very nice. Very nice. Okay, we'll go back to our test model. This is our Scratchpad EdgeTX 2.10. I have other stuff in here I want to show you guys. So, okay, we're in the right spot. All right, so that's it for the interactive checklist. Pretty cool, right? That's a neat feature. Very, very cool feature. I like that. All right, flight modes. Unused trim switches can now be configured to function as a 3-position momentary. Okay, so we'll click on model, short click, and we're going to go into flight modes right here. Flight modes, and I'm just going to pick on flight mode 0, and I'm going to scroll down, and you see right there, T6 says 3-position. T5, I can do the same thing. We just click this little drop down and that says it's a 3-position switch. So that's it. That's what they're saying. In flight mode, you can configure these, any of your trim switches as a 3-position switch if you want. And it is momentary in a sense. It's almost a little bit of a misnomer because if you let go of the switch, it's always in the middle position. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to click on model and we're going to go over here to my logical switches. And I set up logical switches that says when A is greater than 0, A equals 0, and A is less than 0. So notice that right now, my T6 switch, that's this one right here, that is in its sprung position, right? There's springs. So unless you're pushing forward or pulling down, it rests in the middle. So notice that it's reading A equals 0. That's what it's reading. Now, if I pull T6 down, this one highlights. So now it's less than 0. And if I push it up, that one highlights. Okay, so that is greater than 0. And that's what I mean. It is 3 positions clearly, but one of them is like always on, but so is any other 3-position switch if you think about it, right? If you have this 3-position switch, one of the positions is always on. So right now it's the down position or the mid or the up. The difference between them is that when you're not touching it, the position that will always be on is the middle position. So that might come up, there might be some interesting logic tricks you could come up with using that concept. So I'll think about that and see if there's a way I can put that to practical purpose. But it's just interesting to know that it is always, if you're not pressing it, it is a 3-position momentary, but right now it's in the center position. You could also do a not L02. So like it's always on until you move it. And once you move it, then L02 goes on and you can make that a sticky. So who knows? There's all kinds of logic implications with something like that you can fool around with. So that's what they're talking about in the flight modes. All right. So let's see. Flight modes, mixes. Let's see, added a configurable precision for slow up and down to be either 10 milliseconds or 100 milliseconds. So in the mixer, if we edit one of our lines and we click on the gear icon, we have slow up and down, and there's the precision they're talking about. So you can switch from 10 milliseconds to 100 milliseconds. So I guess if you click that and then you add a slow up and down, yeah, it gets really granular. So that's 0.2. What happens if I change this back to that? Now it's 2 seconds. So that's what they're talking about. You can really get granular with your speed in the mixer for slow up and slow down. That's what they're showing you there. All right, global variables added a pop-up option which when enabled displays a pop-up message when the value of GV changes with the new GV value. Okay, let's see. Let's put that to the test. Here I am on my screen, my main screen, and I'm going to press T6 up and check that out. There's the little pop-up right there. Isn't that cool? So it's showing me 123, 124, 125. Very cool. So let's see. We'll go into model settings and we're going to go into global variables, and I'm going to click on this one and hit edit, and here it is. There's a little toggle right there that says pop-up, and what that means is when you change that global variable, you get that little pop-up screen. And if you're curious on how I did it, I'll show you how I did that. It's real simple. In special functions, I have special function number 1. When I hit T6 plus, remember that's now a momentary switch in my configuration, that adjusts GV1 rel plus 1. That's what happens. So when I press T6 up, that'll light and we get our little pop-up. See? That's how that works. That's kind of cool. That's nice. I think they're really putting LVGL to work there, right? Because now we're seeing dual layer. We see the base layer, and now we're seeing a pop-up window, which is kind of cool. That's starting to indicate that they can do some fancy stuff. And by the way, highly responsive. Like, that timing looks about right. That looks pretty good. I like it. Very responsive. Okay, good job, guys. Special functions. Okay, all special functions now have the enable checkbox. That makes sense to me. They're talking about this little guy over here. I think in the past, some of them didn't. So that's cool that they made that consistent. Good job. Special functions can be enabled or disabled without opening the edit menu. So before, in order to change that, intuitively, I keep going like this. I keep going over here and I want to press that little box, right? Just intuitively what I want to do. But in the past, what we used to have to do is click on this and then hit edit. And then we could go down here and change the enable, right? But they made a little modification. Now, if you click the special function, you can edit or you can disable or enable right here. So there we go. See how the little checkbox is not marked anymore? Now, if I click it again, I can click enable. So if I click enable, now I don't have to go all the way into the edit. It would be nice if they got into, like this concept of zones. So, if I put my finger on, in this zone, that little box just goes away. That's intuitively what I keep trying to do. And I think, that obviously comes from being on PCs. That's how we operate our computers. So hopefully we'll get there, but that's where we are today. And that's the feature they're talking about. Now you have the enable disable feature right there on the edit menu. So that's cool. Nice. All right, add a virtual trainer switch that can be selected as a switch to activate a special function. I didn't fool around with this one, so I'm going to skip over it. You can play with it if you want. I'll see if I can dig into it later, but this is one that I actually didn't mess around with, mainly because I didn't want to get 2 radios out and do a trainer setup. So I'll mess with it when it becomes necessary. We'll say that'll give us content for later. How's that? All right, backlight special function is limited to the on-off values configured in the radio setup backlight screen. Okay, first off, let's find out where that is. So let's see, can I do it? If I long press this, yeah, look, it goes right into the setup screen, and I'll click on backlight, and here are my min and max values. So here's what I'm going to do. The first thing I'm going to do is notice that I'm going to set it all the way down on the min, and I do this for the videos. So while I'm watching the video, if the screen's too bright and it's blowing you guys out, I can turn it down. So I put a brightness on my slider right there. That's how I do that. But that's going to interfere with the thing I want to show you. So I'm going to back out of this, and I'm going to press the model button, and I'm going to go into my special functions. We're going to put that thing to work where I can just disable this. So there's my backlight on, right? I'm just going to click that and say disable, you go away. Okay, now what I have, notice I have a switch defined, SA down and SA up, backlight min, backlight max. There's that min value, right? Pretty cool. Okay, so when the SA switch is in the down position, right here, we're at our min value. You see that? See how that highlighted? When the SA switch is in the up position, we're at the max value. So you can see what's going on there. Now, what they're saying here is in the system settings, in your backlight section, you can control the off brightness. So if I only want it to go as low as, say, halfway, now when I hit SA down, see how it just barely dims a little bit? That's what they're saying. These sliders act as the bracket. So if you use a dim feature for your backlight, that becomes the low value and that's the high value. So likewise, if I put that down low, now when I click it, it goes very dim. And if I bring this over, say to the midpoint, that's as bright as it can get. So there's low, there's bright, right? Now if I bring it all the way over, now we get the full brightness of the screen. So that's what they're telling you. Those two sliders act as the guardrails for your brightness settings on your radio. Okay? So if you're using switches like that, there you go. That's how you determine what the high point and low point is. All right, so we'll back out of that. And I'm going to go back into my model settings and turn my slider back on because I need that for videos. So we'll click that and we'll say enable. Hey, look, we got to use it in practice, right? Now, the reason that I had to do that is because I use on here because that's how the slider works. And that means it overrides anything that SA is doing. That's why, if you're curious. Okay, next up, EdgeTX will play telemetry connected when telemetry connects for the first time of the flight. I didn't get a receiver out to show you that one, so I apologize for being a slacker. But if you turn on your radio and you get telemetry, you should hear a prompt now that says telemetry connected. All right, users can configure a custom shutdown image by adding a custom shutdown.png to the images folder. And I think I showed you that one, and I told you that there is a shutdown.png in my Discord in the EdgeTX channel. If you want it, you have to get on Discord to get it. I'm not going to post it anywhere else, so get on Discord. It links in the description. Join us on Discord. It's a cool place to hang out, and you can get it there. So in order for that to work, though, I do want to show you, let's see, if I long press System and scroll down, Power Off Delay. My problem is I always had my Power Off Delay set at 0, so that way when I press this button, my radio is off. That's how I've always had mine set up. And so when I put the custom logo in there, it took me just a second, not long. I kind of understood what was happening. But you have to turn that delay up a little bit. So we'll go back into, whoops, let's long press it. Let's try and get used to the new way of doing it. Okay, so we long press that. And under our power off delay, now let's set it to 4 seconds. Now when I do that and I hold the button down, we get our splash screen, right? That's what's going on there. So that's how that's activated. So there's your splash screen. View text option now available for Lua files. So I guess I haven't played with this, but I'm just going to guess. Let's try it. Let's see. Scripts, tools. Let's see. ELRS, V3, no, Lua. Let's see if we can look at this. View text. Oh, look at that. Cool. So if you want to see what's going on in your Lua script, that's how you can do it. You just go in here and say log viewer Lua. We'll click that, long press it, view text. Oh, can I scroll? No, it just says view text. That's it. Okay. Well, there you go. I think that's just the loader. I'm not a Lua programmer, but I'm pretty sure that's just the loader for other details that are hidden in other folders. That's my guess. All right, so there you go. View text option for Lua files. All right, under radio setup, GPS settings updated the time zone option to allow configuration 15-minute intervals. So that would be under the system settings, under GPS and time zone. So they're saying you get now 15-minute intervals. There you go. I guess 0 to 14. Oh, negative 12. Well, there you go. Let's see. Time zone to allow configuration 50. Oh, I see what they're saying. 15-minute intervals, meaning this. You know, that's funny. I work with some people in India, and I know that there are places in India that are a half hour off. Like everywhere in the U.S. for us, it's everything's on the hour at 12, 00, right? On the hour, not the bottom of the hour. And I know in places in India, it's a half an hour off. So I guess that's what that accounts for, is if you have a time zone adjustment, you can set it in a 15-minute interval. Yeah, that's what they're talking about right there. I see it now. Okay. All right, I'm going to set mine to 0. But there you go. GPS, time intervals. Added the splash screen option, which sets the duration that the splash screen will be displayed. Okay, where's that? Splash screen right here. So 8 seconds. I set my little Eddie the Hedgehog. They're talking about the boot up screen. So if you guys are wondering, they're talking about this one. Oh, I didn't hold it long enough. Oh, look at that. I double pressed it and went back to the old one. What happened there, Edge, guys? All right, we'll try this again. We'll turn this on. And that's the splash screen. So you can set that interval to be longer or shorter. I personally, I like my splash screens to be as short as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and set mine back. I'm going to set everything back. Now that we've seen how it works, that's great. now I'm going to turn everything down. Really short. I want things to be done quick. Okay, let's see. Added the startup sound option, which toggles whether to enable or disable a startup sound. That's right there. So if mine says, let's go fly something. So if you don't want to hear the hello.wave, you don't have to delete it anymore or rename it. Now you can just turn it off. That's a nice feature. That's nice. Good job, guys. Good customization. I kind of like to hear mine. So let's go fly something. Added PPM units option previously. This is a build. I'm not sure what the value of that is. I'm not sure. I'm sure there is some value. I just don't know what it is, but there it is. There's the PPM units option. So I guess you get some PPM units. I guess you get to set it to either 0 or you can add tenths now, I guess. So there you go. That's what they're referring to. I'd love it if one of the developers or somebody who knows about PPM units can come in and say why that matters. I don't know. I don't know why it matters. In the enabled features section, added, I like this one. This was a good one. Under the enabled features section right here, what they're showing you is they're showing what the current model settings are. So right now, in my enabled features globally under the radio setup, I have global functions turned on, but in my model settings, it's turned off. So we'll back out of here. We'll click on the model button. We'll go to enabled features and we'll see global functions is off. So what they're doing is they're showing you in that other screen what your model settings say about enabled features. Cool, right? That's a good one. I like that. That's clever. Let you know what the model's telling it to do. That'll help avoid confusion too. All right, hardware. Analog inputs such as pots and sliders can now be configured as switch x-axis or y-axis. Additionally, they can be configured to be inverted. I think that has something to do with joystick. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm guessing that's got something to do with the joystick configuration because I've seen a lot of simulators where they're looking for x and y axis. So I guess if you want to use a pot and a slider for x and y, you can do that. So that's what I'm pretty sure that's what that is for. All right. EdgeTX will now detect at runtime if a serial port is available to allow for SBus trainer on the external base. So what they're talking about is if you have an external trainer module or setup, so say you have a foreign one that you want to have act as an SBus receiver, you could do that. And it'll detect that if you have an SBus trainer on the external module bay. If so, the configuration option will be available. I haven't tested that one yet. Again, the trainer stuff, I don't do a whole lot of trainer. So I know a lot of guys do, and you guys ask me questions all the time about trainer setups, but I just don't do much in terms of training. So I don't really dig into that aspect of it. But I don't know. I guess if you want to know more about it, check the manual and get in there and play with it. And then you can come in Discord and tell me how it works. How about that? Let's do that for a change. All right, let's see. EdgeTX, oh, we covered that. Screen settings. Oh, this is some really cool stuff too. They made some really neat changes. I don't know if the eagle-eyed out there will pick it up. They'll be like, wait a minute, what the heck? If you notice, the top bar is now different on this radio, and that's what they're talking about. In the top bar, the radio info, date and time, and internal GPS are now configurable widgets. So we'll get in there by pressing the telemetry button, and then we're going to press the top bar, and we'll hit Setup Widgets. So check this out. If you don't want the clock there, let's say you want to put your RF signal information there. So this is your volume, your battery, and your over-the-air signal, your RF protocol signal. Let's say you want that over in the corner and you don't care what the date and time is. And frankly, I don't. So let's do it. We'll do select widgets, and I'm just going to scroll down and we're going to pick, did I miss it? Nope. Radio info right there. See that? Now it changed the clock to our speaker, our battery, and our over-the-air signal. So if you don't want that here now, you can say, we'll just remove that, and we'll remove that. So now it just kind of cleans up your top bar a little bit and gives you more space for things you'd rather have. frankly, I don't care about the time on mine. I know some people do. Maybe, you know, if you're flying long distance or whatever and you're trying to keep an eye on the clock, maybe I get that. But, you know, for me, I don't really care. It doesn't help me in the way I fly and what I do. So there you go. So let's see, top bar, radio info, date and time, internal GPS are now configurable widgets. So I guess if you have GPS enabled, let's see if it shows up as an option here. Internal GPS right there. So I don't have anything, so that means it's not going to display anything. But if you had an internal GPS, I reckon it would probably show you maybe satellite count. I doubt it'll show you your coordinates. I'm not sure. Maybe the EdgeTX guys can leave a comment and tell me, what does that widget show if you have an internal GPS? Obviously, it's selectable. We got that part. There it is. It's GPS. It's right there. But I don't know what it shows you. I'm guessing it would show you. Oh, it's not in the list because, oh, there it is. Internal GPS. I'm guessing it'll show you satellite count. That's my guess. All right, let's see. Selecting an empty widget will no longer display the select. Oh, that's another nice little feature. So notice how these are all empty, right? If I just click one of these now, instead of asking me if I want to select a widget, it just says, man, he's got nothing here. Let's just bring up the select widget box. Like that, yeah, that's a no-brainer. That was a good call. That's clever. That's clever programming. That's what I love about these guys. That's clever. Why not? I mean, that seems like a very good idea. Okay, selecting an empty widget will no longer display select widget option and instead goes right to the widget selection menu. There you go. For widgets, there is the ability to add the alignment option to the text widget to align left, center, and right. So let's try that. We'll back out of this one and we'll pick another screen here. You know what? I got some stuff right here. We'll do this. Set up widgets. Remove it. We'll add one. They said this is add the alignment option to the text widget. Okay, so let's look for text. There's text, and it's got my label, and there we go. So right there, it says my label, it's top left. All right, let's see if we can click on widget settings, and we're gonna make the size huge. Let's make it much bigger, and I'm gonna make it black. That'd be easier to see. Okay, there we go. Now we got a big one up there, my label. We'll do widget settings again, and we'll do alignment. We have left, center, or right. So we'll click center. There you go. Center, and then right. Very nice. Okay, widget settings, and we'll add a shadow. We'll make this red instead now, so that shadow will show up. Look at that. Nice little shadow. You can just see it. Very subtle, but it's there. I can see it. So my label, it's got a shadow. There you go. So add the alignment option text widget to left, center, or right. And then alerts. Warning will be displayed if you try to shut down the radio while the trainer connection is still active. Okay, that's a good idea. Seems like a reasonable thing to do. And that's it. That's the list. That's the list. That covers everything on the list. I went through this top to bottom, man. We went through every single major feature that they announced. Of course, if you go to the GitHub, let me just show you the GitHub really quick. And I'll do this because you guys might want to see on the GitHub how to do this on your own. I'm going to hide the chat because that's just making a mess. Okay. On the GitHub, if you click on the releases right here, click on that one, and then come down to Centurion. See, there's a little option over here on the left called compare. There's RC1 and there's RC2. Let's go ahead and compare RC2 to RC1 for argument's sake, and we'll see what's there. So fixed long enter not working correctly when using adjust global variable special function, disable override when both GF and SF are off. So a couple little updates, not a whole lot of stuff, but these are just little, modifications and corrections for RC2. So this is good. This means people are out there testing. This is actually a pretty good list. They actually did quite a bit of work here. But they look like minor. These are just bug fixes. That's the main thing. No feature enhancements. These are just fixing little issues that are out there. So there's your comparison between RC1 and RC2. You can also change this to be, let's see, it's easier, I guess, if we go back here. We'll do a compare to 2.9.4. So here is 2.9.4 against RC2. Now you can see the full list, everything that's been changed. And come down to the bottom, hit load more commits, and it will tell you everything that's been done. This was a very big update, guys. This one took it. it took some months, it took some months of work, but boy, was it a big update. They accomplished a great deal. I think Peter told me it was something on the order of 500 commits on this one. So again, I mean, God bless them. They're doing yeoman's work, that's for sure. So EdgeTX 2.10 release candidate 1. That covers the video. That's all I had to show you for today. Thanks again to the EdgeTX team for getting this knocked out. I appreciate you guys, and we're grateful for it. I look forward to continued development, and I guess next up will be 2.11. So if you guys flash a nightly, you'll see 2.11 probably if you flash a nightly. All right, guys, that's all I've got for today. If you like this kind of content, make sure you smash that thumbs up button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you know when new videos hit the channel. That's all I've got for today. Take it easy. Go fly something.